In Colombia, a bistro that promises to take you on a culinary tour of France while making you feel right at home. Experience wine, music, and French country cooking as we go table to table with Café de Paris. Hello, and welcome to Table to Table. I'm Vinny Reggae, Chair of the Center for Hospitality and Culinary Studies at Howard Community College. On each episode of Table to Table, we'll take you inside one of the most popular restaurants in the community. This time, we are heading to Café de Paris, a cozy French bistro located in Colombia.
I'm French and I want people to remember I'm French. That's why I'm lucky I still have a French accent after 21 years in the States.
I learn every day. That's the wonderful thing about being in a restaurant where you can basically do whatever you want. It's like you're creating new things, new ideas all the time.
My name is Erik Rochard with Café de Paris in Columbia, Maryland. Worked with Erik Rochard at Citronnelle for 2.5 years and then opened my first Café de Paris in Lowell. We relocated in Colombia in 2002 and we've been here about 12 years. People drive, people drive from Washington, from Rockville, from Silver Spring, from various areas like Potomac. And I'm always surprised to see people sometimes driving half an hour, 45 minutes to come have dinner with us. I feel special every time somebody walks through the door because we're not around the corner, there's nobody walking by, the people don't come here by mistake, so when they come here, it's a blessing.
Rebecca Pauvert, and I'm the executive chef here at Café de Paris. My background is kind of non-traditional. I kind of pieced my education together. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but this is the kind of food that I've always been cooking, is country French cooking. As I went through this journey, I kind of sought out people I could learn from, and I guess it's pretty much the old style of learning where you had a master and you were the apprentice.
Happy birthday, dear you. Happy birthday to you.
Somebody had brought up the name of Café de Paris and how really, really nice Erik is, and how, generous and warm, and and I thought, that might be something to check out. And so I sent him my resume, and he contacted me within a few hours and interviewed with him, and it just turned out to be a great fit.
She has a great sense in assembling flavors. She's very sensitive to the herbs and some spices that you don't use on a regular basis, and if you treat them the right way, you get something nice. When she was a sous chef and my French chef was there, sometimes he said, no, you can't do that, it's not French. I said, what do you mean you can't do that, it's not French? I mean, you have some fabulous fishes that are cooked with with an Asian glaze, and it gives a flavor that you don't experience.
He's given me carte blanche to do really whatever I want to do. I think what I bring to the restaurant is my business sense. Also, over the years, I've learned how important it is to make everything count. You cannot waste anything. It can either be put in a pot of soup, or you freeze it for future reference. It's like you just don't waste anything.
We all have the things we like to do, but a good chef is somebody who makes good cooking and makes money and has fun at the same time. That's the hard part because it's a tough job.
I think a lot of times people have the wrong idea of what French cooking can be. I think a lot of times people don't want to come to a French restaurant because they associate it with haute cuisine, lots of butter and cream, and I don't think it's necessarily that.
And we're trying to create a palette of dishes that are basically the one you would find if you took your car and drove around France. You know, then you'll find bouillabaisse. You'll find some stews in the center of France. You'll find some sauerkraut and pork coming from the border of Germany and things like that. And of course, we also have a link between French cooking and the American cooking because we have a chef that is American. She also has a link to France because she's married with a French guy.
You know, some of the best French food that I had in my life was in my mother-in-law's kitchen when we would go to France. And it was just really simple, honest, fresh ingredients. And that's what we're trying to get across to the customers here in Colombia. It's things like cassoulet and duck confit and bourguignon and stews and fresh salads. Provençal cooking is really big for me because it's freshness, it's things from the garden, and it's light and really nutritious.
French cooking is not mass production. You have all your things, you assemble them and you cook them, you put them on a plate. I go shopping and I find something and I bring it, or the chef says, oh, I'd love to cook this and cook that.
I attack that from different aspects. You know, what is seasonal, what's affordable, how's it going to look on the plate, what might be appealing to the customer. And then what I try to do is, in my mind's eye, create a visual on the plate, like what it's actually going to look like. And, you know, it's always good to look at trends, magazines, what's happening on TV and things like that. I mean, you can get inspiration from anywhere.
A couple of years after we opened, there were a group of ladies, and I knew 4 of them, and 2 I didn't know. And I said, "So what did you have for lunch?" And they said, "Chicken Caesar salad." And I said, "Oh, so you're coming to a restaurant to have a chicken Caesar salad?" "Yeah, there's nothing I like." And I said, "What would you like to find here?" She says, "Well, we're in Maryland. Why don't you have a crab cake?" So I said, "So you're coming to a French restaurant to have a crab cake?" "I don't care. I want to eat something local also, so it doesn't matter." So I said, "When you go to a Chinese restaurant, you order French fries." He goes, "No, but crab cake they have everywhere." I said, "Okay." So I went back to the kitchen and I said to the chef, I said, "Can you make me a crab cake?" He said, "Yeah." So we had the crab cake on the menu. And same thing about the burger. I thought, people who want a burger will go to, a burger joint or whatever, but no, they like to have a good burger sitting at a bar, listen to some good jazz. So it took me a long time to admit that, and maybe I was a little stubborn being too French, but at the end of the day, I like the idea of being able to mix up a lot of influences, and that's what I enjoy in the menu. Bottom line, it's about what you feel, what you find, what you can put together and adapt it and mix it with the influence. But, French doesn't mean you have to be 100% French. And, again, it took me a little time to understand that. Today, I would say a French restaurant, a bistro, is like an American TGIF. It's a place where you show up wearing your jeans and you're casual. I always tell the staff, it's like if I came to your place, first of all, you'd be honored, you'd be happy to see me, and you want me to feel special about what you're going to do, what you're going to serve, the attention you're going to give me. So it's as simple as that. We don't serve 300 people a day. We can give our special customer the special attention that will make them feel special. The bar is a nice place for people who enjoy to have a quality wine or a nice cocktail, and also to have a special moment listening to some jazz. It's great, and it's a moment of sharing also because I play too. We play songs from Edith Piaf, from the 50s. We have all kind of people that are kind of 60s, 70s, 80s, and that adds to it. It's the difference between going to a place which is very formal, very minimalist, very modern. Here it's like kind of more old-fashioned, the chairs, the table. It's a casual place where you feel good. It's like a puzzle. When you offer the art of eating and dining and drinking, you have to assemble all those pieces to make sure that they fit and that you can have a great match and a great experience at the end that people remember.
My philosophy is, you know, this is such a difficult business to be in. You have to love what you do. And what I try to do is create an environment for myself and for my staff that we enjoy what we do. There's no point in doing this if you don't love it and if you're not passionate about it.
But it takes a lot of dedication, because when you come here, you have to forget about everything else you have in your life. So I always say, yeah, I'm going to die here. I can never leave. It's hard. But it's a passion, and when you have a passion, you don't count. In French, we say, when you love, you don't count. I mean, even if you work 80, 90 hours a week, at the end of the day, the pleasure of somebody walking through the door, remembering you and giving you a hug makes all the efforts, priceless, basically.
Next, we are moving from Erik's table to our table, the Howard Community College kitchen, with Café de Paris owner Erik, Executive Chef Rebecca, and HCC Culinary student Karina Mendes.
Learning at home. Learning in the classroom. Learning for success. For learning that works for you, choose Howard Community College. To find courses and programs that fit your schedule and learning style, visit hcclearningworks.com. You can get there from here.
Welcome back to Table. I'm Vinny Reggae, Chair of the Center for Hospitality and Culinary Studies at Howard Community College. We just paid a visit to Café de Paris, a French bistro located in Columbia, Maryland. We are now joined by owner Erik and Executive Chef Rebecca and HCC Culinary student Karina Mendes. Welcome.
Merci.
So what are we going to be making today, Chef?
Alors, today we're going to make crepes. And we're going to do a variation of two types of crepes, a savory crepe and a sweet crepe.
Excellent.
You know what's interesting about the crepes is it's a meal of the poor. And of course, in Brittany, buckwheat was growing like weeds. You had chickens running everywhere. And they started making the equivalent of pancakes, except there's no yeast, as you're going to see. The same way the Russian do the Blini, the same way the Mexican do the tortillas. They're using everything that grows around. So Brittany is really where it started, but of course they expanded and then they use it also in the south of France. So it's really, I would say it's an international dish that you make with whatever grows next to where you are.
Sure. Well, look forward to tasting what you're going to make.
Parfait. Well, here we are. Let's cook together.
Right.
Bon, alors, if you look at the crepe, the flour, I mean, you see the difference between the white flour and the buckwheat. A lot darker. The buckwheat has a little sour taste, so what we're going to do is we're going to mix the regular flour with the buckwheat. That would cut a little bit of the acidity, and as the American palate is very addicted to sugar, it makes it a little more forgiving. So here we're going to do, the recipe is very simple. I'll let you do that. We're going to do about two cups of buckwheat flour, and generous cups, and don't be shy. No, you don't have to. You just,
okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. The good thing about crepe is very forgiving. Whatever you do, you can adjust at the end. So don't feel bad if you put too much or not enough. You can add a little more milk at the end if it's too heavy.
It's too thick.
Voila, too thick. Yeah, Rebecca corrects my English. That's part of the deal. So then we're going to put one generous cup of the white flour.
And this is a half cup, so we're doing two.
Voila, perfect. And now we're going to do what we call in French une fontaine. So here you call it
a well.
A well, voila. And we're going to ask Corona to put 4 eggs in there. Make a nice hole in the middle. Parfait.
Okay.
Excellent. Voila. So now we're going to start adding one more ingredient, a good pinch of salt. This is kosher salt, so it's a little more generous. And then a good soup spoon of vegetable oil. Why?
Why? To bind it?
To help bind and also so that it doesn't stick in the pan. Voila, so now you're going to be starting to stir from the inside out nicely. Break the eggs. Voila, perfect. And as soon as all the eggs and the beginning of the flour start to bind, you're going to start pouring milk slowly. In the middle, it'll be better. Voila. The idea being to avoid, stop, that's good. The idea being to avoid making lumps. If you stir all together at the end, you end up with lumps. This is better. Voila. And then you can change tools and grab a wisp, right?
Whisk.
Whisk. It's been 20 years, still the same. Now you can add a little more milk, you're good. Perfect. Boom. A little more milk, slowly this time, because we don't want it to be too liquid. A little more. Voila.
Perfect.
So let me repeat the recipe. It's very simple. 2 generous cups of buckwheat flour, 1 generous cup of regular flour, the one you have at home, a good pinch of salt, some vegetable oil, about a good soup spoon, and then I would say probably about 2.5 cups of milk. And you will see the consistency. That's it. That's what you want.
That's what you want.
Yep. So that's the first one. So we're gonna put that on the side, and we're gonna do the other one. So we're gonna do 3 generous cups of white flour. I'm gonna do another well and put 4 eggs in the middle. Alors, even in a sweet batter, you put salt to add flavor, so a good pinch. You also put a little bit of vegetable oil, and you start to stir slowly, nicely. Parfait. You can start adding the milk. A little more milk again. So you want that to have about the consistency of a potato soup. So now we're going to add another ingredient. So it's a sweet batter, so we're going to add sugar. I would say got 2 good soup spoons. The effect of the sugar is going to be that when you cook the crepe, it's going to caramelize a little bit, gives it a little color.
Oh, okay.
Voila. And another ingredient is the vanilla extract, so a good soup spoon.
Everything is precise measurements
Absolutely.
here.
And the secret ingredient,
Ooh.
which is the rum. The recipe calls for a glass for the cook and a glass for the batter. So we're going to do a good soup spoon, and you can adjust that. But you can already smell the aroma. Tiny little more milk, and we're good.
Okay.
Tiny. Now here is a presentation that we're going to offer. It's called a Blini, and your Blini, you're going to see it's like a small crepe, and it's more like an appetizer. So we're going to use the buckwheat flour to make that little crepe, and then that crepe is going to be garnished, and we're going to work on the garnish right now. Bon, alors we're going to start cutting the capers, chopping them thin, and in the meantime, Rebecca, you can do the same thing with the shallots. Yeah, that's good. So this is plain sour cream that we're going to season with a little bit of salt. Not too much because the capers are a little bit salty. A little bit of Italian seasoning. And a secret ingredient that's called, what is it?
Nutmeg.
Bravo.
Nutmeg.
So nutmeg is strong, don't put too much, a little pinch. And you're going to mix all that together. Add a little pepper. Mix again. So those are hard-boiled eggs that we're going to peel. And now you're going to chop those eggs thinly. Voila. So we have 3 of the ingredients, the fourth one being the smoked salmon. And now the next step is to make the crepe. So we're moving to the stove. I am going to pour just a little bit in the middle of the pan. Not too fast, because what's going to happen, it's going to expand a little bit, but that's exactly the size I want. And I'm going to take the spatula to check the coloration. We're going to wait until we start to see around the crepe a little bit of coloration, which means that it's starting to cook through. You can start with that one.
Okay. Thank you.
With that one, you're going to spread a little more. Very good. A little more, a little more. So you see, now the batter is cooked. We're just going to flip it. Hop, et voilà. Now, let's say you have your guest coming to your table. You're going to put this dish in the middle, and everybody's going to make its own little crepe. You put a little bit of cream that you spread nicely on your crepe. Then you put a little bit, if you like it, of course, shallots. The thing is, shallots is not too aggressive compared to onion. It can be eaten raw like that. Then you're going to put the egg. And this is your appetizer. Now, I'm going to ask Corona to dice the chicken for me. And we're going to use now the crepe as a container. The interesting thing about this next dish is you can use anything you have in your, basically in your fridge, whatever leftover you have. So here we're going to do a pretty simple preparation. We're going to use chicken and we're going to use ratatouille. Ratatouille being, Rebecca is going to tell you how we make the ratatouille.
It's a melange of vegetables from Provence. It contains zucchini, yellow squash, eggplant, tomato, herbs of the region, and that's usually basil and a little bit of thyme, oregano.
Put that in here too.
When I make ratatouille, I cook each vegetable separately,
A little bit of
and
Italian
that
seasoning.
keeps the quality of the vegetable
A little more.
really
little bit of
nice.
salt.
It doesn't get too mushy. And then I mix it together,
You're gonna
add
mix
the tomato,
this with
and
that.
season it with garlic, herbs of Provence if you want, and a little bit of salt and pepper.
So you're going to put this inside.
Be generous.
Not everything because it's going to be too much, but voila. Then you add a little bit of mozzarella in the middle. Perfect. A little more. Be generous. Voila. Then you're going to close it and turn it around. This way, the other way. Voila. There you go. Perfect. Excellent.
Beautiful.
And then you're going to put mozzarella on the top. It's going to add to the flavor. Also, what you don't want is the buckwheat crepe to be exposed to the heat, because then it's going to start to crack. So voila, stick that into the oven. It's ready to serve in 10 minutes. Bon, alors now we're going to cook a buckwheat crepe, a big one, and we're going to stuff it with ham, cheese, and egg. You're going to see how easy it is. So I'm going to break an egg right in the middle. There we go. Some cheese on top. Some ham. And then we're going to fold that and let it cook nicely. Yep. Et voilà. This one is all yours. There you go.
Merci.
So you leave it on the side to keep the egg cooking slowly. I'll explain what you're doing.
Okay, I just juiced 3 oranges. I'm going to be adding some sugar to this and some of the zest from one of the oranges. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to cook this until the sugar dissolves and it reduces a little bit, and then this is the way I do it. At the very end, I put a little butter to emulsify it.
In the meantime, my ham, cheese, and egg crepe is cooking slowly, so I'm going to be able to put it back on the plate.
We'll also add a little bit of Courvoisier. And what I do is I just I cook this until the butter is melted, and then it's done.
I'm going to fill that little pan, not fill, but I'm going to put some cognac in there. I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to pour that over here. Fold that this way. I'm going to put a little bit of sugar. Et voila, your crepe is ready.
This looks great, chefs. I'm just going to take a bite, if you don't mind.
We don't mind, just one bite.
Sure, absolutely. So tell me about yourself, chef. Like, which part of France did you grow up?
In Paris.
In Paris?
In Paris, yeah. Right around Paris and in Paris. Worked in Paris also for about 2 years, then came to the States in 78. Spent 3 years, went back to France. Spent 10 years and came back here. And I'm here for good.
Now, how you got started in the culinary business, culinary field?
Well, my mother was very bad at cooking, so my father was coming home late and he was eating sandwiches, and one day I started cooking for him. And you know, you have a passion, and it's about sharing. Cooking is about sharing, so whatever you do, you make people happy. And when you sit at the table, you know about each other, you know how your life is going. So I think it's very important. It's vital that we sit down and we enjoy this philosophy of life. And around good food, it makes even life better.
Sure.
And
what about Chef Rebecca? What about you? How you got started in the culinary business?
I started creating recipes when I was 11 years old. And I thought I was going to be an apparel designer, and I ended up working at a restaurant in Philadelphia. Ended up staying there 10 years. I've opened a lot of businesses of my own in the culinary field. And
she forgot one something very important. She's acquainted with a good-looking Frenchman.
There you go.
He's a charcutier at the Four Seasons. And, you know, it's a passion. It's an art.
But thank you so much for coming. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Well, thank you for experiencing Café de Paris with us. For Table to Table, I'm Vinny Reggae.
Au revoir.
To learn more about the Center for Hospitality and Culinary Studies, go to our website, howardcc.edu/hospitality.
Or like us on Facebook at Center for Hospitality and Culinary Studies.